This video is going to show you what is possible for the average tech competent entrepreneur to accomplish these days without knowing any code at all. I'm going to build a complete directory website from scratch, scraping the data, building the website, and deploying it online without using any code at all, just prompting AI. This is not using a no-code platform. This is creating from the ground up. So what you're about to see is a demo I gave in FreyChoose Ship Your Directory community. You can see the full thing there in his community. Shout out, it's a great place. So let's dive in. Crawford AI is like the go-to here. It's one of the most popular repos on GitHub right now. What we're going to do, if you've never used GitHub, it's okay. It's going to be fairly simple here. I'm going to introduce you to this new world and why you don't need to be intimidated by it. You go here and you can download the code. You just download the zip file, or you copy this and you're going to open Cursor. You just go to cursor.com. This is Cursor. It's called an IDE. Here you have folders and files. You have a terminal console. You have a window to see what's in the file. And then you have an AI agent over here, okay? So what I've done here is I've imported the Crawford AI script, okay? Crawford AI main. This is all the same code here in the GitHub repository. So I import that into Cursor, and I take it and I drag it over here into this window over there, the agent window, and I can choose agent or ask. We want agent so it can do things for us. Then I can choose the model. I want to use Claude 3.7 Sonnet or Gemini Pro. If I'm not worried about my budget, I go into max mode and it can do things with higher context, which means it can remember more of the code in your conversation, more of the functionality you're working on, so it doesn't make silly mistakes, because unfortunately we're still there. But as this technology grows, there'll be less and less silly mistakes, and this will all be faster and faster. So I'm dragging in the Crawford AI folder into the chat window, and that says basically use it as context. Okay, this is what I'm about to say here. Use this as context. Just like in ChatGPT, you upload a file, analyze this transcript or whatever. So I'm saying using Crawford AI main, we want to write a scraping script that scrapes. All right, this is where we can do this together. We're going to build a basic directory here. Say we want to scrape, I don't know, 25 things. What do we want to scrape, Frey?
Any niche?
Well, I'd rather not do a Google Maps thing right now because it's more timely with the API keys and stuff. But what can we scrape Google for?
Let's see. Best cameras under $1,000.
Perfect.
Okay, cool.
Best cameras under $1,000. And we'll do that from Google search results, just for simplicity's sake. Okay, from Google search results. So I'm saying that, okay? Now, that's not everything, all right? Because there's more involved. For example, we're going to use different API services here. So we're going to use Open AI API when necessary to use an LLM. We're going to use a service called Tavily. So Tavily allows you to, their API basically searches Google for you, like really fast and really like conveniently. So we're going to say we're going to use Tavily SDK API. We want to scrape best cameras from website. Yeah, okay. Find the top 20 cameras. We'll just do the cameras themselves instead of the URLs, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, find the top 20 cameras. Okay. Now, I don't want to get too complicated in this tutorial because I know many of you are new to this, but there's something we can do that if you've never used a system prompt with ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, it's really powerful. And we're going to use a system prompt here where it says, hey, Cursor, you're a multi-agent system coordinator and you play two roles, planner and executor. You will decide the next steps on what to do based on a Scratchpad file that we're creating inside this project. And your goal is to complete the user's final requirements, mine. So basically what this means is when I just say, okay, this is what we want, if it just started building it, there's a good chance it wouldn't create it well. There's a good chance it will create it right, especially if we use this like max mode. But in the beginning, you really want to make a plan. I mean, this is good practice with pretty much anything you want to do, from a video to an app to a directory, make a plan. So we say start in planner mode, and let's make a plan. Store all data as JSON files. So I like to spit out as much as I can here, everything we're going to want. Okay, find the top 20 cameras. We want the maker, the name, the model. Is there anything else about a camera that's like super, like the
name,
not the sensor. The sensor, is it like full frame or cropped?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we got that there. We're giving it the context, and then I just press enter. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yep.
Yeah, let me see if I can make my resolution bigger here. Okay, so you can see here, we'll scroll through this just like you're chatting with any ChatGPT or whatever. Okay, I'll help you create the script under $1,000. I'll create the Scratchpad file now. So the first thing it does is create a Scratchpad file here. And it says, here's what we're doing. Here's our objective. We'll use Crawford AI. We'll use OpenAI API. We'll use Tavily API. We'll store everything as JSON. You know that site you use Outscraper Fray? Same thing. This kind of code that it's about to build is exactly what Outscraper is doing. So, all right, we've got our Scratchpad here. And as you can see, it's just huge. It's like full of tasks. It's everything we want to do here. It's going to make it really well. And then it created a requirements.txt file. So it planned it all out. Then it started making the main script. And this is just working on in the background. You see, this is just going while I'm talking here. This is what they call vibe coding. And it's my job to just babysit it. I don't know any code, guys. I know how to read it, so to speak. I know how to follow it. I don't know how to write it. I'm always just copying, pasting stuff. Now it's just doing it, and I can just pay attention. Okay, it's creating the main script, config.python. Let's get the camera schema.
So quick question, or Jordan, with Tavily, I find Tavily really interesting. I think there's so many use cases, but I noticed you didn't actually specify any actual website URLs. So is it just effectively searching up best cameras under $1,000 and then taking the links and then just kind of looking at those websites? Or how's it working?
I mean, it would be interesting to just let it go and see what the AI does, but we wrote Google search results here at the top. Yeah, we did say that. I would probably, if I'm trying to do this fast for our video, but if I were really doing that, I would say Amazon, get through Amazon. I mean, probably just Amazon or B&H photo video, find like the top sites for those things and then do it. And doing something like that, I would probably make it like more of a dynamic data directory where there's software in the background updating like the prices. Although, you know, I've always seen SEO blog pages, blog posts or articles about this exact topic. And normally you don't actually really see the exact price. It says like, click here to go to the Amazon, right? And it's their affiliate link. Click here to reveal the price. So I think that's their workaround. But if you did want to reveal a live price, you would need to integrate something in the background that could, you know, be running all the time. So as you can see, this is still going. And this goes back to what I was saying about like saving money. If I were to hire a developer to do this, unless they had it, you know, we have Crawford AI already. That's an open source script. So that's like already written. But even so, our script here is using Crawford AI, and look how long it's still taking. But then think about a human typing all this, and you think, wow, this would cost me thousands of dollars a month to pay someone to do it. And using Cursor, I pay a lot because I'm using it nonstop. But certain professional developers and coders are probably paying like $400 or $500 a month to use Cursor to the maximum ability, but they're making 10 times that. You know, that you're making a lot more than that. It's just another expense because otherwise you'd just be paying a team to do the development for you.
Some people in the community have been asking about scraping other websites. Maybe it's a competitor, maybe it's a niche that is kind of hard to, like, it's just hard to get that data. Is that possible with Tavily? Is this a solution to that? Can you scrape someone's website HTML and then just like...
Yeah, you don't even need Tavily. You could just use Crawford AI for that. I'm using Tavily because we want to search Google. Okay. And in my experience, using Tavily to search Google, it's way better results. But then when you're talking about scraping other websites, yeah, Crawford AI is a great one. I also recommend Crawly. I'm almost convinced it's better than Crawford AI. I'm not there yet, but it's run by Apify. It's really powerful. And so you can sign in and do it their way and pay them, but they also offer the software open source, Crawly. And it's cool because they have different ways of it working. So what we're doing right now with Crawford AI is just with Python. Okay, so it's done, by the way, and we can run this. Excuse me. The Python scripts run as code, right? What happens when you choose something like Cheerio, it uses a different method. Cheerio, I don't really understand so much, but whereas Puppeteer or Playwright. This literally will make, I know this means nothing just looking at this page, but it'll literally open up a window on your computer as it's doing it, open up the website you want, and then close it. And then open up the next URL and then close it. So it'll literally open them up, scan through them, put the data in a markdown or a JSON file, and go on to the next one. So yeah, it's very simple to scrape your competitor websites with this. Basically now what we have to do, this is called an environmental variables file. Okay, this is where you put all your sensitive information. It doesn't show up on GitHub, etc. You put your API keys just here, you paste it after, and then we can use what we want here. So I could just change the search query anytime. It's writing a script that I can just change anytime. Headless browser, verbose means like it's like kind of telling you what happens as it happens. We're going to scrape 30 URLs maximum, retries 3, the request timeout 30 seconds, which means like if something doesn't work, wait 30 seconds before trying it again, because a lot of websites have things in place to make you not able to scrape their data. And so that's why software like this exists, to get past that like Cloudflare site that says, prove you're a human. So here we go. I already have that all filled out in the .env, but let's try it out now. So here we open a terminal. Now watch. I'm going to do this myself because I think everyone should learn. And I have little micro courses available for you to learn for free to do this. But you could literally say right here, okay, now install the requirements and run the script. And it will do it for you. The AI will just do it. And if there's a problem, it'll do it. It'll fix it. It'll just keep going. I want to show you how to do it manually here. And then if we have a problem, I'm going to show you how to send it to the AI agent. So then you can learn the general process for debugging when you're building this way. So first we're installing requirements.txt. I think I have to run pip 3. Okay, so it's not working. I don't want to deal with it. So I'm just going to say, hey, you do it. Okay, so I want to just take a moment here to tell you that the command line is not so crazy. It's pretty simple to get the hang of it in the beginning, especially for our purposes, just running basic commands. If you want to get more comfortable with the command line, check out the 5-day command line bootcamp, link below. It's free. You'll get an email every day for 5 days, and it will introduce you to the fundamental reasons why you would need to use the command line while building things with AI.
Is your background software engineer, by the way?
No, I've never learned coding, nothing. I've only been like I showed you, I've been a hobbyist website maker. I used to have like clients I'd make WordPress sites for. I tried to start making platforms with PHP and hiring developers 8 years ago. And then now this came along and I'm like, well, this is perfect because I'm not a coder, but I'm familiar with all of this enough. But no, I've never had any official training in education, any of that. All right, so now it's running. It made its own script here. So here's our script. How would you like to run the camera scraping pipeline? Run it automatically, run each stage individually. I'll put in 1. Let's run it automatically. All right, here it goes. It's searching.
So we created the plan based on the niche that we're choosing, which is best cameras under $1,000. And now we're running that. It's looking at all the websites on Google search, the 30 websites or something.
Maximum 30. It looks like we found 17 search results, and then it saved those to a file here. So I'll show you that. Let's see. Camera scraper, where is it? Camera scraper data, crawled, search results.json. So here we are, and here we go. This is our raw data. It had an error afterwards, it looked like, but we got what we needed. So here it is. Let's take a look. The best cameras under 1,000 include the Canon EOS R10, Sony Alpha A7, Fujifilm XS10. Results. Here's the URL. Here's the title. Here's the content. And then it made a score. I don't know how it calculated that score. Maybe that's in our Scratchpad. When you're doing this the right way, you want to tell it how you want to calculate that score. Like, here's what's valuable for my niche. Calculate a score according to those values. Raw content. All right, so right now this is done. So we're just going to play with this. Wow, this is thorough, huh? It scraped the whole site. So now we're ready to do a data processing script. We are going to create a directory website using this data, parse the data into the important components for my directory. And then I would just explain this a little bit. Model, price, URL to learn more. And then we want a summary of the device. For summaries, use OpenAI API to summarize the camera based on the data in this document. Use the default model, LLM model. Now, once again, in a more complex build, you might want to specify which model, like use 03 for reasoning. I'm just going to use 40, just whatever. Save the results in a CSV file, in a clean CSV file. Do we want any more of this data, Frey? Model price, URL, summary? Is that good?
I was going to say, or I was going to ask about images.
Sensor size, image quality.
Or I was talking about more, so like it scraped the HTML, it seems, in the content, but
but not the images of the camera,
which is just a separate thing. We don't have to do that right now.
Well, we would do that. Yeah, so that would come next, right? Because in our data, as you can see, we just have URLs from the website. So the first stage was just the URLs. The next stage, we'll put the score in there too, by the way. The next stage is taking the value from all of this, right?
Gotcha.
So the images will come next. This is going to give us a list, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is going to list model of the camera. I'm just going to press enter now. This is going to give us a CSV of those cameras, and then we could write another script saying find an image for each of these cameras online and add it to our database.
Damn.
But images is always a bit more funky, especially because the next step, we're going to use Bolt, and the images don't work when you try to upload it with your data. So we're not going to do that today because it'll just take too long. But a CSV file will work fine, and we're going to make a very basic directory now with, I don't even know how many cameras we're going to have. I had 17 results. It looks like it did summarize it in the beginning. So we got 3 cameras.
Okay.
And it looks like it could have saved image URLs. In fact, that maybe, remember there was an error that I clicked away from? That could have been it. Because normally it's not going to include something empty unless there's an error. So I think, just to say something right here, at this stage, are you seeing how much potential there is? It's like, when you're using Outscraper or whatever, you're just so limited. And I mean, it's a great site. It has a lot of options for you and like upsells. But here it's like you can do anything. It's like anything. And I think the craziest part, I think Greg Eisenberg said recently, it used to be about execution. Everyone had ideas. It's a matter of how well you can execute it. And now it's back to ideas. Like everyone can execute, but how good can your ideas be? And when you start to play around with data like this, and I showed you like the vibe score earlier on vibe builders, and like what we can do with this, the more creative you can get for presenting the data for your niche in your directory, I think the more valuable your directory is going to be for people. And we don't know where this goes. I think that's what's crazy. Is like, we don't know where this goes. Like that playbooks directory I showed you earlier is so cool. And to me, that just opened up Pandora's box for what's possible. 100%. Is if you find the niche and then you just keep listening to the sources, and then that AI agent just runs in the background and updates your directory nonstop, just whenever you need it. And you're just like hands off, and you don't have to worry about your directory becoming irrelevant or like going extinct because you didn't stick around to update the listings. Now I know it helps, like Montessori find it helps that they're all schools, and for the most part, most of them are still all in business. Maybe they go out of business once in a while, but if they still have a website online, they're probably still in business. But if you're putting software up, right, or GitHub repos, like how relevant, how long is something going to be relevant for? It might disappear in 2 months. It might not be like, oh, you're using that still? No, don't use that. So you want to make sure your directory updates that. Now, I know we're getting like super complicated here, but the main message I want to portray in all of this is that when you're using a framework like Node.js with an AI copilot, you're conversationally coding, then you have the ability to expand upon that potential and keep adding functionality and features that might not be obvious right now. That's really my message here.
100%. And I don't know if you checked out the last Greg Eisenberg podcast with Steph Smith. I love Steph because she's so analytical, and she's insane when it comes to like market trends. But she was talking about directories and how a potential future idea is basically a custom GPT where you have specialized data, and then you can paywall a custom GPT. So I've been thinking about this like nonstop the last 24 hours because I have a Plasma website that gets like 300. Like I have all this survey data where 300 people fill out the survey around plasma donation pay, and it's like really difficult to find that information on the internet. And I'm like, dude, I could just like take this CSV and create a custom GPT where someone can type what's the plasma pay in Texas, do a lifetime deal for like, I don't know, $49 or something, and then just give them access. Like I think that is so much better than the alternative, which would be like creating a digital guide in Canva and then like hosting it on ConvertKit and then putting a link to say buy now, and it's only specific information about like this thing. So anyways, not to also go down a rabbit hole, but I think this idea of like directories with a front end where you have a custom GPT to interact with is so sick. And I really want to play around with that. I don't have time right now, but
I know that's what it's always about. It's time.
Yeah.
Let me know if you ever need help with that. It sounds like a fun project.
For sure. Yeah.
So you can see here, incorrect API key. So it had an error. It looked like it was summarizing all these different cameras, but it had an error. So I'm going to move this over so I can fix that API key real quick.
While you figure that out, Daniel, you asked, what about copyright when you scrape and use images? Yeah, that's always a tricky topic. Jordan was mentioning that he just recently learned that it's not illegal, but it is against Google TOS. And that's basically exactly what I found. Anytime you use like images, even from Google Images and stuff like that, it no longer becomes fair use when you try to monetize a directory website. If you have the intention to monetize, that's when that rule seems to go from, the green area to the red area.
Is that how it works? Only like the intention to monetize, huh?
Yeah, I was reading about like the legality of it and all that. And that's basically it. Like if you're like a non-profit, or if it's like a hobby project and you use like someone's Google image, then it's fine. But yeah, so that's a little bit. I have I have a riskier take. I think that using Google Images is like the equivalent of jaywalking in the sense of SEO. And I know that's bad to say, but I guess I can't unsee all the other things that people in the SEO world are doing to break Google TOS. It's crazy. It seems like no one's playing by the rules. And so
it's just a question of your risk tolerance, how big you think you're going to get, how big of a deal do you think it is, Yeah, I think this is the internet, and I think it's always going to be the Wild West. Google is the ultimate law for most of us because we have to operate within their rules, but it's still the Wild West. It's still Google. How much money do you have to be making before they care? So now we have our list, and it's separated by commas. Looks like we got prices there. We got a URL to learn more. We have all this data here. So now I'm simply going to drag this file into Bolt. There we go. Does anyone have, two fun things we can do here. Build a directory with this CSV data using the Astro framework. I talked about this in the community and on YouTube. You want to use Astro and not Next.js because Astro basically it creates all the pages as you're building the site. So it renders it just gives you an HTML file, which means they're way faster to load, way better for SEO. So we're going to use Astro. Does anyone have a directory website they really like the style of? Because we'll copy and paste it.
Successful one that I like.
Give me a URL and I'll show you how we'll just mimic the style.
Cool. Yeah, if anyone does have another one, let me know. I just typed in the chat Atlas Obscura. It's just one of the ones that I analyze. I think they're clean. They're super, super clean.
Atlas Obscura. Okay. Do they have like a feed page? I like that. Okay. This might be a bit too complicated.
Okay.
But let's just use this. No, it's cool. All right. I'm screenshotting that. And then I just drag it in. Build a directory using Astro. Mimic the design and style of the attached image. Attached screenshot. And that's all I'm going to say.
Now quick question. Quick question about Astro framework. Does this have anything to do with the whole SSR and CSR?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? And for some quick context, there's a viral tweet where basically someone was like talking about Lovable and how it didn't support SSR out of the box, server-side rendering, which is, and I'm not technical, so I just kind of read and learned about this. But effectively, if it's not out of the box SSR friendly, then it does have some implications from an SEO perspective, and it's not as easy to index. especially if your website's more complex. It's just bad news. But what you're saying here is your prompt, including the Astro framework, fixes that problem.
Yes. Astro is not even SSR. Astro is only SSR for when you log in, when there's like things that it needs a server for, like a database. But everything else is SSG, static site generation. So it's even better than SSR, right? But React, Next.js, which is really lovable, Replit, V0, even Bolt, they all like default to Next.js because it's a cool, I mean, I love making projects in Next.js. Like I shared with you my background earlier, like from PHP, and you look at the code on your FTP server, you're like, oh my God, like there's too much going on. It's bulky, it's slow. PHP is like every time, like the site needs to load. When you click a page, it has to load it. It's just like, I mean, it works. There's a reason PHP has been around for so long, but it's, I don't know. I just really don't like it. But with Next.js, it's minimal. It's like JavaScript. It's got a lot of bulky JavaScript code though, which is because it's client-side rendered, meaning all these JavaScript things to make the website show up are happening on your browser instead of on a server. So if I go back to Montessori Find, if you were to go to V1, yeah, this is V1 of Montessori Find. This is using Next.js. View the page source. Where's everything? Where's the code, right? There's nothing here. There's no H1 tags, nothing. Now, it's okay because Google is fucking Google. Excuse my French. Google is Google. They can load some JavaScript, you know, when they're crawling your site. Like Google can do it. It's not a problem. But look what happens when I inspect the page. Suddenly I see all the code. That's because all this code is rendering on my browser. So it's the client-side rendering CSR. But if we go over here to Montessori Find version 2, where I made a video showing you how to do this, if we view the page source, we'll see everything, including the CSS, except it's all one line down here. Check this out. So Alabama, it's all here. It's just not fun. So you can see the links, you know, to North Dakota. It's got everything here in the page. So that means it's either static site generated or server side rendered, depending on what's going on. That is huge and super important. The reason I had to make filebuilders.ai like 3 times is because of that. Astro is not as convenient for building apps. Excuse me. Like Next.js is great if you want people to log in, if you want them to connect with a crypto wallet, if you want to like have interactions like that are just lightweight. Next.js is amazing, but Astro is meant more for blogs, directories. But these sites are a little finicky. They don't, Bolt works the best with Astro in my experience. V0 did not do well. I don't know if Lovable does it well. You just have to do so much finessing with the prompts because by default, they're not helping you make directories. Now they might change that. They probably will soon because directories are such a big deal. All right, so let's see this here real quick. All right, camera guide. I'll zoom in here.
All right,
camera guide. Find your perfect camera. Sensor size, all sensors. Full. Wow, it's got the filters in there. Micro Four Thirds, APS-C, price range under 700. Pretty cool, right? Now, obviously, we don't have images yet. View details. We got a whole page. Now, maybe you'd call that thin content. We add another layer here. Write a whole blog post about this. Scrape the internet for other blog posts about the Panasonic S5. Learn as much as you can. Put them all together. And in your own words, write about the Panasonic S5. And you could create an AI agent that'll do that for you anytime you add a new camera. Visit the manufacturer website. Great. We got, not found. Back to cameras. You might, so wow, pretty comprehensive, right? Mm-hmm. How fast did we do all that, Frey? You know, like we just made we made a super, super basic, but you know, this is a good starting point. Now all you need to do is upload your CSV file and you can update that. Now there's other things to think about. Oh, wow. Does this work too? Comparison. No, there's no way that's going to work on the first go. Yeah.
I was going to say that's insane.
Yeah. So that's Bolt. So then from here on Bolt, you could keep going. You could be like, okay, now, and a lot of the times it'll even tell you here, if you have a proper PRD, like a product requirements document with everything you want, it'll say, okay, next, you want to do this. Next, so like next, let's build out the compare functionality. And you could let Bolt do that in the same way Cursor can do that. And so the next thing I wanted to show you guys was how to deploy it live.
I noticed that this is for beginners, right? You got the data from Cursor. And someone might be like, well, isn't Cursor the most powerful. It can do everything in terms of like AI coding, vibe coding. But then you
Yeah.
brought it over to Bolt, and since I've been playing around with it, I kind of understand that logic. But can you explain to a beginner why you would leave Cursor? And is it because there's Lovable, Bolt, VO? Is their strong suit the front end design? Is that why you're effectively moving from Cursor to Bolt? What's the reasoning there?
So I'm about to have Cursor build it too.
Okay.
I only say use Bolt or whatever because you're a beginner. That's literally the only reason. What I'm trying to preach out here is that, yeah, save the money. Don't use Bolt. Just use Cursor. But the system prompt for Bolt, like you can see bolt.diy. This is open source Bolt, where you plug in your own API keys. Check this out. Well, I don't know how to get to the actual site, but you could literally run Bolt locally on your computer. You can run this repo and connect your API keys, and it'll do the same thing. And the big part of all that Bolt is, and Lovable and everything, is their system prompt.
Cool.
I don't know.
No, I just wanted to get your general overview on that, but that makes sense if you're like already dialed in and you're familiar with Cursor. It sounds like it's the better tool overall.
So basically what Bolt, Lovable, all them, they just have all these system prompts that say, okay, if a user asks for this, use that. Like it has like a framework it follows meant to make this really easy. But the thing is like, it's kind of like a singularity, like convergence point, because all of them still use Claude Sonnet 3.7 or Gemini Pro 2.5. They all use the same LLM models in the background, which are training on our data. So it's like, there's still going to be more or less the same thing. It's just a question of what's it going to look like. But like right now, I can say here, use our data, build a directory using Node.js and the Astro framework, populate it with our data in there. And Cursor will just do it. Now it's probably going to start in planner mode. Yeah, so it's going to make a whole plan. Now, honestly, everyone, this is the right way to do it. This is the way I recommend. This is way like, I'm making like a course. I mean, course is a bit of a stretch, but I was going to show you it a bit later. But I'm making this course where like you can just follow it and it gives you every prompt. Okay, like we have the raw data. Like this is what we would really say when we're about to process the data. We have the raw data after the first scrape. We're going to use the reasoning model in our end file using that provider. We're going to load JSONs, analyze each item, right? Next, we're going to decide what parts of the data we want to extract. So if it's a blog, like how deep is the content? We're going to make a content quality score, an authority score, a timeliness score. Then if it's GitHub, right? We're going to make a specialized processor for GitHub data. And then if we get all the way to the step we're at, which I'm not there yet, start a new project, Astro optimized style guide. We start defining the brand. Like, so there's a way to do this like optimally. Yeah, there's a process to do it really well. But as I've been demonstrating on YouTube, you don't need to have a process to make an MVP to get an idea out there. So, okay, so Astro is giving us our whole thing here. A basic helpful starter project. Sure. Install dependencies, yes. Initialize Git, no. So what I say, everyone, is like, if you agree that this is cool, that this is super important to learn, whether you want to make directories or anything, like the sky's the limit. This is the starting point for getting comfortable. And then every version that you build of your directory, you make it better. You add new things, you do something better. Like the data can stay the same. As long as you have your data, you have your data. And as I'm showing you, it doesn't take much to build your front end. Like once you have the data. And so say, oh, I want to do this. I want to do this. Like, oh, hey, I want to add Supabase as a database backend so I can have an administration dashboard and I can edit things, right? So in the Vibe Builders AI, I have an administration dashboard. I can log in and I can edit records. So I don't have to go into the actual database. Montessori Find, I have to go into a JSON file like this and edit it if I want to update it. So every directory I'm building, every project is a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better based on the things I'm learning. And if you have an actual like plan to build a business, then it's worth the money, in my opinion. It's worth the extra expenses because you're going to be getting all that back. Like I said, you're compressing years into months of what you can get done, of how fast you can see what people like your ideas, et cetera, et cetera. So here's what we do here. We can connect with GitHub. Click that, connect the repository. I'll call it, I don't know, Frey directory demo. And now this project obviously is a different project than our Cursor project. The Cursor project, I like to keep all the data scraping stuff in one project. So you can see here, we have all the scripts, the configuration script, the main process camera script, right? So in case I need to run any of that again, like all of this would just be messy. We don't need any of this in our website project. We just need this for the data, right? So this will be a new GitHub repo for a directory demo. There it is. And you can see it's using Astro. It's got a little README there. Now what I do is I copy this URL. And there's two ways you can do this. We'll start just the easy way. We'll click deploy up here. Bolt uses Netlify to deploy. V0 is going to use Vercel. I've just always been comfortable with Netlify, so I use Netlify. You could really deploy anywhere you want. These services all have agreements with the hosting companies, and they all, trying to make money. So they've turned me into a Netlify customer, but Netlify can be free. You can host lots of websites on Netlify and not pay any money, especially enough before you finally hit something, Boom, your site has been deployed. You can do it here. There it is. That's the website address. And I can actually add it to a domain. Add a domain you own. You can just connect it to a domain. Super easy. And then what happens is every time there's a new, I'm going to show you this next, but basically it's automatic deployment. So every time a new update goes to GitHub from you because you made an update to the site, you press save on GitHub by committing a message and pushing it, then it's automatically going to update your live site, which I think is the coolest part. So the first thing is we want to make sure that this deployment is connected to our GitHub repo. You would think it is automatically, but the truth is I don't know why Bolt doesn't do that. So I have to click link your project. I'm over here in the project configuration. Here you go. Project configuration, build and deploy, link repository. And in the same vein, I could just make a new project instead of deploying from Bolt. Click import and import from GitHub. And Fray directory demo, we'll call it Fray demo. And this is all just basically which Git branch to deploy. You might have different branches if you're working on different features. That's all kind of advanced stuff. Don't worry about it. Environmental variables, like if you need to add API keys, you would do that here. We don't. Then we would deploy it. Now this is deploying from GitHub. So when a change is made to GitHub here, it'll automatically update our site. So I am now going to import this into Cursor. I'm going to make a new window. I click clone repo, and it's cloning everything in here. And now I have our site. What's something easy that we might want to change, right? Where's that site? I have so many tabs open here. Here it is. Okay. Find your perfect camera. Let's say we want to change this, right? Let's add more padding to the hero, something like that. I'm just going to say that here. I've opened up the project. Let's say executor mode, add more top, bottom padding to the hero, and change the hero text to be more engaging and invoking of FOMO to buy a camera. All right, so let's let that work for a minute. Now I'm going to show you how to run this locally so you don't have to send it to the internet to make a change here. I make a new terminal and I open a new terminal, excuse me. And I just write npm install. Now, npm means node package manager. And node is what we're using. The packages are like dependencies, like other bits of code that are in here that we're going to use. So we're using Astro, for example. That is a dependency that npm needs to install here. So it's going to install all the dependencies, and then I just do npm run dev. And now, here on the local host, I'm running the site. See how this is localhost 4321? That means it's on my computer. It's not on the internet. Don't miss your perfect shot. Limited time deals on premium mirrorless cameras under $1,000. So if we went back to the original site, obviously that was different. It had less top-bottom padding. I don't know. Do we want? So basically, anything you do here, okay, add an image, add a background image for this section. You would just tell Cursor to do it. Now it's updating our scratch pad here, but just right here. Do this, do that, do this. And if it doesn't work, you copy and paste the error. You say, hey, this isn't working. Tell me what's up. Tell me what's up and fix it. And then it'll fix it. So say we're done here. We change the tab. I say git add. That means in our GitHub repo, we want to put all the files in there because we're going to update all of them. And then I make a new commit to GitHub that says change hero text. This is saving your progress. So then if we mess something up royally after this, we can go back to this commit. Like, oh, I messed up. Let's go back here. And then I do git push. And now I've pushed it to our main branch of GitHub, which is github.com, Jordan Herbst for a directory demo. And if I go here, you can see now, just 1 minute ago, right now, change hero text shows up. That's the change we made on our computer. It was sent to GitHub. And now here in Netlify, we can see it's building and it's already published. Okay, so see, once again, change hero text. It's already published. We didn't have to do anything but send it from our computer. Now we go to freydemo.netlify.app. Don't miss your perfect shot. And we fixed it. And so that's like one of the cool perks of Netlify. It'll just automatically update everything from your computer. What you see is what you get. So as long as it's good on your computer, once it's working on Netlify, you know it'll keep those things going. And that is the conclusion of my presentation here. It would have taken months to do all this stuff. So it's a trade-off for like, do you want to invest in this, not just the skills, but like the tools to build stuff you've never been able to build before? And for me in my life right now, I'm like, this is so worth it because I've been wanting to do this my whole life. But I just never had the time. Maybe I don't have the right mentality to study coding and code. I'm just not that kind of person.
No, dude, I totally agree, man. When I was just starting with directories, my whole mentality was like, damn, HRS is expensive. But if I do it for a year, what is that, like $1,200? At the time, it was $99 a month, so it was $1,200. And that's worth education. Like if I can turn that into becoming an SEO consultant, then hey, or wherever that ends up, then that's worth it. So I totally agree with the mindset. We have Corey who says, so Astro doesn't need a database, right? Does that limit the site?
Okay, so there's different ways of looking at this, and it's going to depend on your data, how often your resources might need to be updated. I'm using Astro here with Vibe Builders AI, and I do have a dashboard I do have a database. It's using Supabase. I can log in here, and it's still all buggy, but I can upload JSON files, like new things I've scraped. I can edit things, like edit. But obviously, with our new site here, we didn't use a database. So montessorifind.com does not use a database. It uses flat JSON files, and there's 7,000 listings. Okay, they're not heavy, right? This is all the data there is. It's not a lot of data. So I would say if you need to be able to update your data easily, you're going to want a database. If you're going to need your data like more flexible, I guess, you're going to want a database. But if it's something that's just going to sit there, like Montessori Find, it's kind of like a school is a school. It's not going to change much. Then, right here, if we were just going to have a website of the top cameras, like if we decided to turn this into just a blog post, it's not going to need a database. So it's just going to depend. And I have on my YouTube channel, I have videos on how to take from this step to add a database and administration dashboard from your no-code app with Cursor. And like I mentioned earlier, I'll have a prompt guide soon coming out where you could like follow it, and you would actually do the Supabase, the database, like before you would do this and like official development stuff. You can get away with it with all the no code and AI, but the right way to do it is like get your database schema set up before you do anything like front end. That's how we always did it with my old PHP developers anyway. But yeah, so to answer your question is like, it's really just going to depend on your site and what needs to happen, how fast that data can load, what needs to load, what needs to be changed, etc. I hope that helps.
Yeah. Yeah. When I learned Lovable, we included like schema markup in the prompt. That was included in the very first prompt. And we did set up a Supabase thing because I had like 40 enrichment columns.
Yeah.
So it was like really cool. And Supabase is super like user friendly too. There's a great AI assistant that's super easy to clean data. Like you have like a bracket that you just don't want to show up on the front end. You can just ask the assistant, remove the bracket, and it'll do it. It's pretty awesome.
Did Lovable, you said Lovable, did that connect with Supabase well? Like, is it working? Like
super easy.
That's cool. I have not had success with Bolt or with V0 connecting Supabase and using it on Bolt or V0. I always have to move it to Cursor for Supabase to work, but I haven't used Lovable.
Yeah, Lovable is super easy. We even had a prompt to fix the SSR, but that's a different topic. But yeah, I used Supabase, and then we deployed with Vercel. And my domain was on Namecheap. It was cool to be able to see how you can own a or buy a domain on Namecheap, but then still use Vercel to deploy it. And yeah, anyways, so that was pretty cool. Cool. So Thomas said, "Where can I find that Notion page you are showing right now?" And I think it's not this page, but the Notion.
Well, these were my notes for the presentation. So I am, where is this thing? Let me find this real quick. I'm launching something for free in a few days, or at least be free for everyone in here. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to launch it exactly. But it is a total like framework for conversational coding, basically. Conversation-driven coding. And this is basically a whole mini course. And it's everything I've learned on how to do this. The real meat is going to be in here, the 4-phase vibe coding approach for anything you want to build, not just a directory. And so this will just explain like what you need to do each step of the way, like an overarching summary of it. And then a few weeks, I'm launching a course. This is where there's the actual prompts for building the directory. And, I'm not going to sit here and tell you like, this is how you want to build your directory. Like this is for a certain type of person that also wants to learn how to do this with AI. So it's not everyone. I mean, obviously you can build a profitable directory on WordPress doing other things, but if this does intrigue you, like you won't just build a directory, you will learn how to build something like the right way using AI. So like this is like basically the prompt we used earlier. I want to use Crawford AI, Crawley, and Tavily SDK to scrape data, blah, blah, blah. And then it just takes you the whole way. So like step module 1 is just scraping, and module 2 is actually like enhancing. And we got a lot of enhancements in there. In a couple weeks, if you want to stay tuned for an announcement for that, you can sign up for this bootcamp. It's free at aicaptains.academy. It's a command line bootcamp. So basically all the things like the general realms you're going to need of building with AI, like vibe coding, we're going to cover. So why you need technical confidence, the command line essentials to talk to your computer, how to like just look at basic code patterns without knowing code, fundamentals. So what is an API? How does that work? And Git. And we also go into dependencies. So that's free. You can go to aicaptains.academy and sign up for it. And then you'll be added to my newsletter. And then as soon as I launch that free conversation-driven coding thing, you will get the link to the Notion document. And then as soon as I launch the course, you'll hear about that as well.
Cool. Sounds good, man. I think you have exactly the right approach. I always like to come at an angle where people can learn skills they can apply to other builds too, not just directories. So I fully agree. So definitely going to be exciting.